Well, good afternoon and welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining me, Mr. Reality, and I'm luckily to be joined by psychic medium Liz Cross. Liz, how are you?
Oh, great. Thank you. This is going to be a weird one.
It's going to be weird. So, if you think politics of the day are weird, I wanted to take you back in time to like the mid 1500s when politics were a little bit more cloak and dagger and, stabby. And we could talk to Mary, Queen of Scots, who is a longtime favorite of mine, just historical character. I mean, there's a tragic figure in her story. You can read all about her. But I wanted to know, is there any way you could bring in Mary, Queen of Scots to talk to us today?
I have her here. Yes, I do. Wow.
So, how long ago did Mary know that we were going to talk to her?
How long ago did you know that we were going to talk to you? An hour or two.
That's about when we decided to have this meeting. So, she got the call. What was she doing before she got the call that psychic medium Liz Cross wants to talk to you?
What were you doing prior to knowing that we wanted to chat to you? She was knitting.
Is she currently
Oh,
incarnated as a human being, or is she not now incarnated?
are you currently incarnated as a human? No.
And how many lifetimes has Mary, Queen of Scots had up to now? Just curious.
Human lifetimes have you had from, now up to now? How many? About 300.
About 300. And so, what can she tell us that she would like to dispel that may be rumors about the life of Mary, Queen of Scots?
She wasn't a cruel individual. I think people made her out to be. Um, she was actually very nice. She was taken advantage of, and she was also a little simple. She was slow.
She had high training and she was all very well received by the people around her. She moved to France and married Francis of France. And had she and Francis had lifetimes before together?
Did you and
Where's
Francis have
Francis?
times
Mm,
before
Here he
together?
is.
Did you? She's known him for a long time. They always spend their lifetimes together.
That seems like the truest love that she had. Was he died very suddenly after they were wed, and was can he tell us if he was poisoned or murdered or if it was just a bad lot he drew that time?
Ooh, were you poisoned? No. Were you murdered? No. He had a heart issue, something to do with his heart.
And so did he know that he was not going to live a long time before he incarnated?
Did you know that you were not going to live a long time? Not consciously aware, no.
So after Francis crossed over, Francis II of France, how much did he spend in Mary's orbital from the other side? What things did he see? What percentage of his time was spent looking after her and doing other things on the other side?
What percentage of your time was spent looking after her when you got to the other side? He was very worried about her situation. He could see all the backstabbers and the betrayal. There was a lot of underhanded things going on. A lot of people were really going against her that she would think that were her closest confidants. It wasn't good.
But what percentage of his time was spent engaging with her? Did he ever try and communicate with her psychically?
Did you ever try to communicate with her psychically? He couldn't. I mean, but she knew his presence was there. And what percentage? All the time. He was around her all the time. He was so worried about her because he could see at that point what was going to happen. So I have to ask this question. When you're in the spirit world and say any loved one is in the spirit world, even though maybe with our conscious minds, we're not able to communicate with our loved ones. Are our loved ones still communicating with us on a soul level? Absolutely.
So they're always there? Like, are they watching us go to the bathroom? Are they watching us take a shower? Because that's what I think people out there are really concerned about. Oh no, someone's in the shower with me and they're dead.
Right. I mean, can you see us take a shot? We can see everything. They can see everything. I mean, do they actually care? No. That's conscious mind thinking, right? That's human thought. I mean, when you don't have a body, you don't really care about, what people are looking at.
You
It's
just care
just a
about that
body.
sexy orb when you're out of body. Oh, look at that orb. That's a hot orb. Glows bright, right?
Right. I mean, they don't care about stuff like that. That's just like part of being a human.
Have Francis and Mary reincarnated together and in a since then? And have they had lifetimes together?
Since then, have you had one? Just one? Yes, they had one other lifetime. And were you royalty in that lifetime? No.
What was that lifetime like? Did they have a
Well,
long life or again a short one, truncated by early death?
did you have a long lifetime? No, that was short as well. They were actually poverty stricken in the next lifetime, and they both died of TB.
Is there plans to reunite on the Earth plane for them?
Are there plans to reunite on the? Oh yeah, absolutely. They're gonna do this again. Are you gonna stay in the UK? No. Are you gonna go stay in Europe? No. Where are you going to next lifetime? They're coming to the States.
Okay, welcome back. What was it in Francis's lifetime? What soul journey lesson did it create to die at such an early age? I wonder.
What soul journey lifetime did did you want to create? Like, what was it that you did? It was about leaving her, really, because she wasn't that good at making decisions. I know there's been a lot written about her. I know she's been studied a lot, but she was terrible at, character judgment or judge of character, and she was terrible at making decisions.
And so shorting her in that lifetime was supposed to force her allowed to make good decisions because it didn't end up well for her. Spoiler alert, trigger warning. If you're offended by horrific deaths, please stop now. We'll get to it.
Right. Right. So did it help her by actually leaving early in that lifetime? No, it didn't help her because she couldn't cope on her own. She wanted to, that was part of the soul contract. She wanted to try to cope on her own and do it without him, but she found it really, really difficult. And did you program into your soul contract to pass in that way? Yes, absolutely. She wanted to go out with a bang.
And so what has Francis been doing on the other side since he passed over from TB?
What have you been doing on the other side since you passed over? He likes horses. He has a lot of souls that he likes to choose to be his horses. Those are truly his friends. He says that's how he likes to connect here on the earth plane. Are you going to have horses and then, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to have a horse farm.
How
And are
many
you going?
horses is he engaging with now on the other side? Does he
Hmm,
chat with horses over there?
how many horses are you engaging with? Hundreds, hundreds. He's in the interviewing process to see who is going to be a good horse for him to make contracts with on the other side.
Is he able
Yeah.
to facilitate a horse to human transference or evolution of consciousness jump while he's over there?
Are you able to help the horse to have a consciousness jump into a human lifetime? That's part of the deal, like of coming down and having a lifetime with him it's sort of it's one of those transition lifetimes where you transition into, a human or you're getting prepared being around humans, accepting humans, and then really wanting to be like a human because humans have power and they have, a larger brain and a different structure and more capabilities in a lot of cases. So he's very instrumental in that.
What a horse consciousness is, or horse souls look like, versus what human souls look like from his point of view.
From your point of view, do the souls look any different? Not up there, they don't. The souls all, they're all very similar, same size, same sort of stature. But how do you know that they're horses? Like, can you read that? How do you know that that's definitely what they're going to be? He goes, well, I don't. I don't. That's what they say they're going to be, but that's not necessarily what they end up with. Only if he makes a definitive contract with them.
So there are
And
horse orbs and human orbs over there on the other side, and they look similar. I just wanted to clarify.
are all souls on the other side, they look similar? Yeah, even if you're a tree, you're a blade of grass, you're a weed, you're all the same. But can you tell there's a different level of consciousness within the souls on the other side? Oh, definitely. He says definitely. You can tell, how evolved they are.
What's Francis's greatest regret from his lifetime as Francis II of France?
What is your greatest regret of being Francis's? Um, He he really was a glut.
Hey, what?
He says I was a glut. He ate a lot of bad food.
Okay. Well, it's hard not to these days.
And he drank too much.
He was only like a child. He was drinking as a child. Bad. Don't drink, kids. Don't drink. Speaking of bad decisions, that was a good segue. Mary Stuart also married Lord Darnley, her second cousin, a union which soured when Lord Darnley mm, was, wanted more political ambition. And I wonder if we could bring in Lord Darnley and talk to him a little bit about his lifetime with Mary and if he had other incarnations with her.
Oh, Lord Darnley. No, they hate one another.
They do, but they have been
They
together
do
before.
not get along at all. So, and I'm saying, okay, you're presenting that to me from the spirit world. Is that just for the benefit of us, the listeners? Yes, mostly. So in the spirit world, do you actually like one another? Oh, in the spirit world, they love one another. But as they're presenting themselves as Mary, Queen of Scots, and Lord Darnley, they absolutely hated each other. He used her.
Well, let's ask Mary her thoughts on that union and if she was coerced or made a bad decision or what her feelings were towards Lord Darnley.
Did you make a bad decision? I mean, in hindsight, no, it wasn't a bad decision. I mean, she had to really contend with in that lifetime the fact that people secretly despised her and they were highly manipulative. She's saying, they told her everything she wanted to hear, but behind her back, they did the complete opposite.
And what incarnations did Mary have before with Lord Darnley? Were they intimate in other incarnations?
What incarnations did have you had? Yes, they've been siblings a lot. Most of the time, they're brother and sister. And there's always a rivalry between them on the earth plane.
How many incarnations we talking?
How many lifetimes have you had as rivals on the earth plane? Oh, only about 200. Good grief.
That's a lot. That's like two-thirds, apparently.
Mm.
What was Lord Darnley's role in the murder of Mary's secretary? Did he order it? Did he do it?
What was your role in the murder of Mary's secretary? He ordered it.
And didn't, how did that work out for him? Not well, we know, but what was the fallback or the blowback from it?
What was the blowback from that? It was a huge mistake. He shouldn't have. And he actually put blame on the wrong person.
Was James actually your son, or did Mary have an affair?
Ooh, was James actually your son? No, that was born out of an affair. Did you have loads of affairs? She had a few.
Oh, interesting.
This is starting to sound like who was it we did earlier? We found out the dad was like a serial killer.
Yeah, the soap opera of the rich and famous. And we always think that we know enough about them, but whenever we always learn that we didn't know as much as we thought. So it wasn't actually his son. That's interesting. But Mary pretended that James the First was the union of her and Lord Darnley.
Did you know that that was not his son? Well, she kind of suspected though, but you pretended. Oh, she went along with it. Yes, because you couldn't have a child out of wedlock. No.
So Lord Darnley was murdered under mysterious circumstances, and I wanted to know what happened.
Ooh, you were married. Sorry, you were murdered under mysterious circumstances. What happened? He was set up. Who
By
set you up? Mary.
interesting, interesting. James Hapburn, the fourth Earl of Bothwell, or Mary's third husband, has long been suspected of murdering Lord Darnley. And is he now taking ownership of the murder of Lord Darnley?
I'm lost. I'm sorry.
So
Wait,
this is Mary's third husband, and allegedly he murdered her second husband, and here he is. And so, can James Hepburn let us know, was he responsible for that murder?
were you responsible for that murder? Yes, he was.
Why did he do that? He just didn't like that he was a jerk to Mary, or what was his reasoning?
Why did you do that? And why did you do that? She told him to do it.
Oh, a hitman for hire.
Jeez.
Again, a long stream of bad decision making is rearing its head here from Mary. What life lesson, I guess, is she trying to make amends for by, I mean, it's not a good idea to murder your husband, but for those of you out there listening, it's illegal. Don't do it. You might want to, but there are other ways. There's counselors now. What life lesson, and actually, what life lesson did Mary have to go through to kill her husband or hire her husband killed?
But lifeless. It's like, why did you do that? Oh, they do that all the time, though. They do that in a lot of lifetimes where it's tit for tat. They murder each other because they're siblings, they're jealous, they're rivalries. They're so why did you have him murdered? Because he betrayed her. He was dangerous. He was giving away too many secrets. He was setting her up. He was plotting against her. It was a security problem. And, there were a lot of people that wanted Mary, Queen of Scots dead. And he was going to do it. So, did you have like affairs with these men to try to keep yourself safe? Exactly. And so you were very manipulative as well. Oh, yes, she was. She admits that. And what was the life lesson here? Well, it was her turn to murder or have him killed.
Was that recompense for, I mean, one of the commandments are, I think, thou shalt not kill, and she did, so that's bad. So what crossed the line for her?
Uh, thou shalt not kill. Ah, she says, oh, that's, rubbish. And I said, well, wait a minute,
God,
wait a minute.
you really think that's terrible? I had good respect for you before we started this.
So those commandments, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, whatever, covet, all those things, are they actually relevant in the spirit world? No, because it's all part of the contract. So why do we need these commandments here on the earth plane if they're actually quite irrelevant, spiritually speaking? Um, you know, why do we need them here? Like, what is the point? Because that was the beginning of the justice system. We needed to have laws in place. Why? Why did we need those laws in place? Because it was structure at that time. And was that for our benefit? No, that was to add an extra layer of ethical behavior and to weave that into human life, right? When we start having rules and laws and societal expectations, now we have a moral consciousness, she says, and it makes us, have stronger emotions towards that morality, right? So guilt, regret. Whereas before these things were really in place, there was no actual punishment. So we could do these things without, society really looking at it as this is really terrible. Those things prior to that, where people were killed, whether justified or not, um, they were looked at, she's telling me, they were looked at as like strong men, like you don't cross strong people, strong humans. That was a sign of strength. It didn't matter whether it was fair or not. So the commandments started injecting a level of fairness and morality and ethical behavior into society. And at that time, she says society was desperate for that because, again, there was no guidance. Everybody was just sort of, you know, running wild. She says it was necessary in order to bring out these very strong emotions.
Isn't that a bad mark on your, I don't know, consciousness or soul journey or karmic wheel if you're an accessory to murder?
Very bad, she says. So here's the thing, prior to commandments and prior to that knowledge that these things, these types of behaviors were unethical, did we have karmic debt prior to that? We did, but we just weren't consciously aware of it. It was also about sort of bringing the karmic debt and the possibility of karmic debt onto earth plane consciousness.
We're gonna
This
have
is
to
all getting very complicated.
we're gonna have to dig more deeply into that. David Rizzio was an Italian courier and a secretary of Mary, Queen of Scots, and I think he was murdered. Someone can tell me. The
Not
conspirators
another
were
one.
Protestant lords, and including Mary's husband, Lord Darnley, plotted and executed the assassination allegedly in front of Mary. And so I wanted to know, is David Rizzio the father of James? No, not that. Of King James. Did David Rizzio and Mary Queen of Scots have an affair? So I can get him better picture there.
Do you have an affair with David Rizzio? Oh, yes. They did. Did you have a child by him? No.
Okay. So it wasn't.
He's back here on the earth plane at the moment.
Oh, well, hello, David Rizzio. What is your, has he made that, does he have to kill uh James Hepburn now? Does he have to, or can he just say, let's let murderers be murderers and bygones be bygones and stop the killing?
Can you just say, like, I don't want to kill in the next lifetime? No, because it's part of the energy. It's the karmic debt.
When does that debt be repaid to be done? Like, how many more times do you have to murder that guy that murdered you like 1,000 years ago before you can say, okay, enough of that. Let's come on, let's chill.
How does somebody like stop? They have to realize that whatever it is they're trying to gain out of the contract, it's not working, right?
Do you realize that down here or up there? Or neither? I guess probably neither, apparently.
Do you realize that down here? Well, ultimately, you realize that up there, but you have to come to some sort of awareness down here. And then what do you, when you come to that awareness, that expansion of consciousness, then what? Because you have to understand exactly why you did it. And it has to go so deep rooted, not I was angry, I was frustrated, or I was having a bad moment, or I was right? You have to go deeper than that. You have to find out why exactly your soul would sign up for that. And it's probably, obviously, it stems from past lives and you need to travel all the way back into past lives as well, and you have to sort of come to this conclusion in the soul that this is not beneficial for me or the other person anymore. But then, even if you come to that conclusion and you still have that karmic debt, then what happens? Well, you can turn it into another way. Like, so it can be turned into like an accidental death, or it can be turned into, you skip that lifetime, I'll skip this lifetime. There are ways of getting over it, but it's very complicated.
It sounds like it. Yeah, for sure. Did Mary and David Rizzio have other incarnations together, and have they always been in each other's soul orbit?
Other incarnations, yeah. Oh, loads of incarnations, yes.
So Mary was forced to abdicate, and I think it was after the death of David Rizzio, or it's hard to remember which one she was forced to. What was her relationship with like her first cousin Elizabeth the First? I don't, they kind of hated each other because
Yeah.
Elizabeth wanted to maintain her monarchy, and at any point, Mary could have said, "No, I'm the monarch." What was their life really like? Because it's been the subject of many, many hours of video and debate.
They hated each other. They absolutely hated each other, but they would have to be cordial because they each had power over the other one in many different ways. It was a chess game. Who was going to make the next move?
Why did they have such a bitter hatred for each other? And had they incarnated with each other and had other animosity battles in other lifetimes?
So Elizabeth the First has been Mary's mother in previous lifetimes, and that mother had abandoned Mary
Wow.
many times. Mm.
Is Elizabeth with us now?
I can call her in, yes.
Well, we'll do a whole show with Elizabeth, but I just wanted her tipping point to deciding to execute her first cousin.
Betrayal, absolute betrayal. She thought that Mary was going to overthrow her.
But she kept her in prison, and Mary was incarcerated, I think, for a number of years. And what was the final tipping point?
Was the final tipping point for you, Elizabeth? She was plotting to overthrow her from jail.
Yeah, so recently discovered letter called the Babington Plot, a letter written by Mary that she wanted to assassinate the Queen of England. Did Mary really write that letter saying that she wanted to assassinate Elizabeth the First?
Oh, absolutely. Do you know, I don't know any of this history. You do realize that. I'm
I just
absolutely
found out about it. I mean, I haven't had much
ashamed.
time, but I'm learning more and I'm drawing on memory from 20 years ago biographies I read.
Well, I'm absolutely ashamed. I should know better being being, British. So,
How many incarnations have Mary and
hmm,
Elizabeth had together?
several. Mary and Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is always the mother, and very cruel, very hateful, very hurtful, inflicts a lot of pain upon Mary. But so why do you keep making those contracts? Because the pain is necessary to evolve. I mean, how many times do we hear that? We hear this all the time. You have to have the pain. You have to endure the suffering. Elizabeth is the prime candidate to inflict, quite amount of pain on Mary.
Did Mary
Emotion,
suffer? Go ahead.
sorry, emotionally.
Did Mary suffer any emotional issues or psychological issues during her lifetime? I mean, there's a lot of weight. Both your husbands are murdered or died, and then you're incarcerated, and it was a tough life, I guarantee you.
She didn't trust anyone. She was highly suspicious. And again, she could be highly manipulative. I mean, she used that, sexual aspect of herself to manipulate and confuse and distract and to gather information. I mean, the way that we gathered information back then was word of mouth, right? It wasn't like surveillance, track and trace, obviously, like at what we have now. Um, and she had to use that because they were out to, kill her. It was a kill or be killed situation.
I'm trying to find out. I mean, Elizabeth's paranoia was justified because Mary did indeed try to assassinate her, but what fueled Mary, Queen of Scots' paranoia in that lifetime?
Well, Elizabeth was going to kill her.
Well, she kept her in prison. I mean, she just kept you locked up.
It was
Did
more
it
than
lead to your
that.
madness?
It was more than that, she says. It was more than that. It was a power trip. It was you will, be under my control. You will do as what I say. And
Does she
and Mary
consider it
was highly suspicious. She
that
just didn't believe anyone, didn't trust anyone.
does she consider it lawfare of the 16th century?
Oh, does she consider it lawfare? Do you consider it lawfare? That absolutely, that's the way things were done back then.
And so I guess I wanted to ask finally of Elizabeth, what was in your heart when you made the decision to have Mary executed? Was it sadness or was it joy?
Was it when you made the decision to have Mary executed, was it sadness? No, it was a job. But how did you feel afterwards? She deserved it. So conscious mind earth plane feeling was that she deserved it. How did you feel when you both, saw each other up in the spirit world? They rejoiced. Oh, we did it. Look at what we did. We made a mess of things down there, didn't we? Wow, we did a great job.
When is the blowback going to happen for that execution between when is Mary going to have to pay back Elizabeth for that? Or will she? Have they said let's let bygones be bygones, or does Queen of Mary now have to put Elizabeth in her sights in a future lifetime?
Did you already get her back? Yes. She already got her back in the next lifetime. Is that when you both died of TB? Yes. And she infected Elizabeth with TB. And Elizabeth, so that was the way of getting, even though she knew she had TB, she lied to Elizabeth and said that you lied
Oh
to
no,
Elizabeth.
I'm fine. I got nothing. I'm good.
Okay. Um, in the next lifetime on this horse farm, she's going to, Elizabeth will instruct the horses to trample on Mary. And
Wow.
here we go again. And Elizabeth will have an affair with, God, which one is it now? Darling, or whatever his name is, Darling
Darnley, yes.
Darnley.
So they're all
That's
going to
what
come
they're
back, and it's
plotting.
going to be another big, crazy problem. I wanted to ask finally, and this whole thing was brought about by a question that you asked me 7 months ago that you've forgotten about. When does consciousness leave the body when a head is decapitated from the body? And I wanted to ask Mary, Queen of Scots, at what point it was actually a horrific attempt at execution. The executioner swung and missed the first time, and then the second time was able to remove her head from her body. So sorry for that graphic display, but let's ask Mary, when does consciousness leave? And are you conscious after the head leaves the torso?
Oh, gosh. So when did your soul leave? So the soul left before the actual execution, right? Even before they missed? No. So after they missed, yes. That's when the soul decided to leave. So, but was there earth plane consciousness in the head or the body? Yes, the earth plane consciousness remained. And it stays on the earth plane with the body, and eventually it dissipates. It doesn't take long. How long does it take for the earth plane consciousness? About 5 days.
Did she feel any pain?
No,
Was her consciousness in the head or was it in the torso?
in the head.
And was the head conscious as it left the body or aware that it was now, hey, I don't have a body?
Oh, was the head, the consciousness aware that it was without a body? It knew what had happened. And how did it take it? Like, how did it feel? It felt terrible, but it was glad that the soul had already left. So, did the consciousness feel pain? Yes. So, the consciousness felt pain, but that consciousness obviously detaches from the soul. And, the soul has a whole different type of consciousness. So, that left, but that earth plane consciousness was what felt the pain. So, is
Hmm.
that what happens? Because the souls tend to leave the body prior to death, like tragic death. But is it the earth plane consciousness that now plays out the remainder of that life? Yes.
And so, what does it feel like when you're up on the higher God plane and your consciousness, like 5 days later, comes and does it reattach to your soul? And do you feel like, oh, I have a piece of me back?
Does it reattach? No, it doesn't reattach. That consciousness stays here on the earth plane because you are no longer that person, right? You are who you really are when you go into spirit. You know that that was just a role that you played.
So, is her consciousness still here because she's read about, talked about, made movies about?
Ooh, is your consciousness still here? There is a consciousness that is here, but it's not hers. It's a collective consciousness of all of those who read, study, formulate opinions, and think about her. Thought forms their consciousness, their energy, and it all gathers, and it ebb and flows. It has peaks, of course, when, something new comes out or there's some new discovery or a new historian. or new documentary she's going on. Like they study me
Is
a
she
lot.
aware of that? She know what that energy is like? And is she still connected to it from her soul to her human bound consciousness?
Are you aware of that? She is aware. But she looks back and thinks, oh yeah, that was then, that was an interesting lifetime. Was this one of the most interesting lifetimes you've ever had? No, no. There's been interesting lifetimes long before that. But those are
What's
very
interesting in
subjective.
this, Mary?
Objectively, we find it very interesting, right? Subjectively, it's not that interesting to her as some other lifetimes.
All right,
And
Mary
the
Queen of
lifetime,
Scots. What
sorry,
is
let me give this to you. The
her?
lifetime where Elizabeth first abandoned Mary on the street after she gave birth was one of the most interesting lifetimes that Mary ever had because she had to figure out who she was. She had no idea that the family who took her in were not her family and they put her to work. She was like a workhouse child. They really put her to work. And I'm saying how? Well, like cooking and cleaning and washing and farming and just everything really. And that lifetime was interesting. Why? Because in the end, she had known who her mother was all along. The mother lived close by and she always had a feeling that that was her real mother, but because they looked alike, she's saying, but it was confirmed in the end because there was some secret that was revealed.
Mary, as you came to the end of your life as Mary Queen of Scots, was there a sense of acceptance, of defiance, of sorrow, or of joy at the end?
Joy. There was joy. After the fact, there was joy. What about here
Leading
on
up
the
to.
earth leading up to? No, it was she was going out of her mind. She was, obviously driving herself mad, being locked up. She was depressed. She was plotting an escape. And the only way she thought that she would ever be released was to be able to plot this coup against Elizabeth and to overthrow her. That was the only way she was going to get her freedom.
How do you want to be remembered, not just as a queen, but as a woman and a mother and a person?
Oh no, she likes being remembered as the queen.
Mary Queen of Scots and Psychic Medium Liz Cross, I appreciate all of you and each one of you out there listening. We appreciate you guys listening. Thanks so much.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this was phenomenal. Thank you, Mr. Reality. And just so you all know, Mr. Reality has a tip jar in the comments. Thank you. Wow, this is great. I need to go brush up on my history.